OnShape assembly tutorial will be based on this little model here on YouTube, quick return mechanism. It won't be as complicated as this, but it's a good start. So it's got a few intricate parts here we're going to omit. So here's how ours is going to look when finished, right? We just have a slider and we have two brackets animating. So making your first sketch, we'll make the bracket, and as you notice over here down at the bottom, it says main body. That's the first part is going to be called main body. And using an L shape, measure out 80 by 80 and then 18 and 18 on the edges. We'll add a little fillet at the top to make it look a little nicer. Okay, we're going to extrude this by 4 millimeters. There it is. Next, we need to make the slot where the slider is going to go, right? So making a new sketch based on this face. Make a rectangle and measure it out. It'll be 10 by 2, looks like 2. And then 4 to center it from the top. We'll add these little slots for the slider to go through, and that'll be a rectangle 1 by 0.5. We'll also do one at the bottom, 1 by 0.5. And then we'll remove these, the pieces we don't need. So let's extrude that. Now that we have that, we're going to extrude and use remove. So how far you go, just do it manually, go kind of like to the end here. And we're going to extrude that, well, it doesn't matter, like I said. So here is the slider slot, right? Let's fillet that or chamfer that 0.5 just to make it a little more nicer. And we need a little part down at the bottom for this to work out. So I'm going to make a new sketch down using this surface of the main body. It's going to be 18 by 18. And we're going to extrude that by 2 millimeters. Okay, so that we also need a little slot for a pin here. So using this top surface, make a new sketch with a circle in the middle, 2 millimeters wide, and then extruded by 1 millimeter and remove. So that'll be a slot for later. We're going to need to have a bracket there. So let's make this slider right now. So it's a new parts studio. I'm going to call it slider. I'm going to use the right plane to draw the sketch. So draw out the sketch and dimension it out. Once you have the sketch, let's mirror across the, looks like the x-axis. With that drawn out, let's extrude it, and that's kind of going to be up to you how thick you want this. Right now it looks like it's 5 millimeters, but it could be longer, so that's kind of like up to you how big the slider should be. We're also going to need a slot in the slider for another pin, so using the top surface, let's make a circle of 2 millimeters and extrude and remove 1 millimeter deep. When in assembly, you have an option to rotate objects around. So in this one, it looks like the slider should be rotated 180 degrees around. So I'm going to try to do that. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Once you do your mate, the program takes care of that. But I rotated this around 180 degrees. And now we're going to use the slider mate. As you can see, it needs two pieces, right? So you have to be really careful about the mate. It has to do with the angle, the direction. So if you notice right there, I clicked on this piece right there, or this mate, right? And then I go to the slider and I try to find the appropriate mate, and looks like it would be at the front right there. I had it a second ago, right there, almost. Okay, we have our two pieces, and we're going to make some brackets, but we need some pins to hold them together. So let's make a new part, and I'm going to call it pin. I'm going to use the front. Doesn't really matter, but use the front, and I'm going to make a circle 2 millimeters wide, and we're going to extrude that by 2 millimeters. Actually 2.5, because I want to fillet that a little bit. So 2.5, and we're going to fillet the top here, make it look like a pin by 0.5. Okay, the pin looks fine, but I like to put a little perforation in the middle just to, indicate the two pieces that I'm going to use. So I'm going to make a new plane, and I'm going to base that plane. I'm going to offset that the front plane by 1. So make a new plane, and I'm going to offset the front plane by 1, so it's perpendicular to that surface. The plane, when you make it, could be a little large, so you can resize the plane at any time. And I'm going to take this one and resize it a little bit. So just to make it more manageable. As you see, it's right in the middle with one on each side. And we're going to use that plane now to make a cylinder and cut a little slit into this pin. So making a new sketch and using the plane that we just made as the surface, make two circles. The outside one doesn't really matter because this is going to be removed anyway. And the inside one is really how deep you want the slit to be, right? So in this case, I'm going to do like 1.8, 1.9, something like that. And that's a cylinder type. And I'm going to extrude that. And maybe like really small, 0.1. And remove. So there's the slit. Oops, then remove. I have to remove. So there's the slit, and just gives it a little nicer look. Now that we have the pin, let's use it. So back to the assembly. I'm going to add the pin, and I'm not going to worry about its orientation now. Like I said, the mating part most of the time takes care of that. So I'm going to use what's called a revolute mate. So revolute mate, and again, you have to be careful which parts you want to select. So in this case, I'm selecting the bottom part of this hole, right? So that's my mate at the bottom. If you choose the top, then you have to be consistent on the pin then. So choosing the bottom mate, I go to the pin, and I also choose the bottom of the pin. And I think the pin is behind everything here. Okay, so there it is. And I choose the bottom of the pin, that's the mate, and they will align once you select them both. See? Sometimes it doesn't align in the right orientation, so you have some options here to get it right. So once that's done, this piece can revolve around the other one. It's hard to see though because this pin is so uniform, but it is revolving, you see, around. I'm going to put a little slot or some kind of identification to give me a better view of this. So go back to the pin, select the top surface, add any kind of a figure. I'm adding a rectangle here, and I'm going to extrude it and remove some parts of it, right? And this will give me some good feedback about revolving. Yeah. So if you try it now, you could see that it is revolving. It's a good visual. The bracket is going to be pretty simple. We'll make a new part called bracket. Use the right view, let's say, to draw the sketch, and make a rectangle and dimension it out. Once you have the bracket, we're going to extrude by 1 millimeter. And then we'll need 2 pinholes at the top and bottom. So let's use and make a new sketch on one of these surfaces and then remove those pinholes. So back in the assembly, we're going to import or insert the brackets, some brackets and some pins. Once that is done, we're going to take one of these pins and mate it with the bracket. It's going to be a revolute also, right? So you have to again get the right position, right? Because there are some choices here. So I'm going to use the bottom of one of these pins as one of the mates. And here, it doesn't really matter which side you pick on one of those brackets. You know, any one of them could be the bottom here. So you click on that one and it will align together. So you click OK and accept that. And now what we like to do is take the other slot and mate it with the slider. So you have to again get into a good position, and in this case I'm going to select the top part of this pin on the slider, right? And as you notice, it will be the top mate right there. It's at the top. Okay, and then I have to choose the appropriate mate on that bracket. So it's a little tricky, but you just have to be, aware of these mates and where they are. You have to solve and accept, and I think they're anchored together now. Let me just move this one aside. So the slider should rotate, go back and forth, see, as you're rotating the bracket. Let me get into a better position here, show you. Let's mate the other bracket to this the bottom of the bottom pin right here. So it's the same formula. It's a revolute. It's a revolute. Choose the right mate. Just be consistent. And sometimes it doesn't matter. Like on this one, it doesn't matter top or bottom right here. So accept that, and you always have to click solve because it has to solve all those mates, right? And now you can see they're all linked together. They're moving around. So this last part, I already took the liberty of mating this pin to this bracket at the end, and look at, I left that little piece down here so it fits right into that slot. So take care of that. And now I'm going to use a different kind of mate here. Oh, by the way, I'm going to fix this main body, okay, so it doesn't move, right? Because otherwise everything's moving around. So this one's fixed in 3D space. So we're going to use the cylindrical mate here, and I'm going to select the bottom of that pinhole and mate it with the bottom of the other pin. Okay, let's see how it works. So I'm just going to reorient a little bit, and I'm going to move that slider, and everything should work perfectly here. So as you see, everything is connected, and we have our assembly. Nothing too fancy, but oh yeah, first start, right?